here is a list of everything we're going to be talking about today. Feel free to skip through to any one of these in the timestamps listed below. There's also very little editing in this, so feel free to just listen to this in the background like a podcast audio or something like that. I have seen Gundam SEED Freedom 4 times. The first time was when I was in Japan for 26 hours, 2 weeks after it had been released in Japanese cinema, and I walked away with buyer's remorse after watching it because it was so unbelievably good and I enjoyed it and loved it so much. I wanted to see it again and I couldn't because I had to leave the country and go home to England. My buyer's remorse was not because of the film, it was because I bought the wrong plane ticket. I should have bought a different ticket so I could have actually watched this film a second time before I went home, because that's how much I loved it. I just wanted to watch it again, but I couldn't. I ran out of time. I had to be on a plane in 3 hours. So, oh dear. Later on, I'd watch it 3 more times thanks to Anime Limited, a UK distributor in the UK who basically secured the rights to be able to show this film in British cinemas. So thank you very much, guys. Really, thank you very much. If no one has sent you any thank you comments or emails, then please allow me to do that for you. Thank you very much. Honestly, really thank you. I love this film so much. The TLDR is, if I was to give this film a rating out of 10, it would be an 8 out of 10 for me. A good, solid, very highly enjoyable watch. My favorite character in this film is Shinn Asuka, and my favorite mobile suit is the Destiny Gundam because of Shinn Asuka's performance in it. My favorite part of the film was the third act with all the surprises and the climatic battles. That was a part that actually made me want to watch it a second time straight away after watching it the first time. But as I said, I couldn't. I wish this film ultimately had more battle scenes and longer scenes in general. I wish it also dialed the romantic tension and drama up to 11 and beyond, so just more tension and drama when it comes to the romance, because I think there's more they could have probably done with that. Things I didn't like, well, the main thing was basically the psychic elements of the Accords and the Black Knights and the Foundation. I just felt that it didn't really need to have it. I understand why it was included, but I feel to myself there could have been probably another way to do it without needing to resort to that in that sense. So if it didn't have the psychic elements, I would have given it a 9 out of 10. All in all, it was an awesome film. Love it to bits. Absolutely worth all the money I spent, even though it completely wiped out my savings just to be there for 26 hours. But it was great. I loved it. I was very satisfied. Very, very satisfied. Okay, now I'm going to talk about some plot details that I really liked and things I wanted to talk about when it comes to aspects of the story. I'm not going to be covering every little single bit, but I will be talking about things which I want to say something about. The opening scene with the grunt suits, that was very cool in the sense of you felt like you're being pulled back into Cosmic Era, and it's really nostalgic, that feeling when you're watching in cinema and seeing these grunt suits you hadn't seen brought to life in years, just there on the screen. It's quite mesmerizing, and then it just throws you straight into the Millennium appearing, and the biggest surprise being Immortal Justice being piloted by Shinn Asuka. And I really like that. It makes a lot of sense to me in some weird way. I don't know why, but I just really like it. I guess it symbolizes in some ways the working partnership between Kira and Shinn as well. I like that. I like it. It works in my head. It just works. And then you have the first battle with TM Revolution's Freedom playing in the background. I've been listening to this song on repeat until I actually got to see it for the first time in Japan in cinemas, and it was just it was good. Moving beyond the intro, we see essentially the struggle of Kira Yamato in Cosmic Era 75. His struggle to essentially be the peacekeeper of the world, having essentially chosen to end the Destiny plan by killing Durandal in Seed Destiny. It's quite interesting to see this now. We get to actually see Kira struggling and recognizing his limits and feeling the pressure and the weight on his shoulders of his decision to kill off the Destiny plan and be the world's peacekeeper in its place. For a long time, we've never seen Kira Yamato really struggle or anything like that. He didn't really have a character arc in Seed Destiny, and it's great to actually see him struggling and be somewhat of a human character again, where he actually has a struggle. He's actually going through some kind of moral dilemma in the sense of he's trying to keep to his ideals and these obligations he gave himself the moment he pulled that trigger, and he's really essentially starting to crumble under the weight of that. And it's starting to affect his relationship with Lacus as well. So lots of good little things here that we can see as a setting for this film. Fast forward a bit, we then get introduced to Orphe and the Black Knights and the Foundation. And I guess this would be a good point to talk about the psychic stuff, the mental mind control, manipulation, influence, all that stuff. I don't really think it was necessary in some ways. I think to myself, it would have been probably more interesting if these characters were all very, say, really nice, friendly, buddy-buddy on the surface, but were inside deeply malicious and evil, and we're going to betray everyone later on. Make it so that Orphe himself was like, not a Shah clone, but someone who has the charisma of someone like that, who's able to manipulate the scenes, and through his careful cunning and political savviness when it comes to how to basically handle negotiation and discussions, that's how the Foundation became what it was. That would have been quite interesting. Or at the very least, just no mind controlling, which I'll talk about a bit later on. But essentially, I'm not really sure this was necessary in that sense. There's a lot of implications this has potentially on what this means for Cosmic Era going forward, I think. For now, I don't think it was necessary to have these abilities. Just saying that they were just basically a species that surpasses coordinators would have been perfectly fine, but I don't like the psychic stuff. It just didn't hit me the right way. Then we get introduced to essentially high school romance drama, as I called it in my non-spoiler review, which is the drama between Kira and Lacus when it comes to their relationship, getting complicated by Agnes's advances, and also seeing essentially a one-sided relationship with Ingrid and Orphe. Now, I liked this. It was very on full display in terms of how in your face and apparent these relationship dramas and tensions were. But I personally thought, if we're going to go there, why don't we just dial up to 11? I think to myself, maybe we could have gone further with that. Maybe, say, for example, not only does Lacus overhear a conversation, but what if she catches Agnes trying to make a full-on physical move on Kira as well? And then we kind of get this really interesting moment of, say, Lacus running away, breaking down in tears over what she had just witnessed. And maybe, depending on how the conversation went, she completely interprets that maybe Kira is probably cheating on her. And thus, we're having this whole insane, over-the-top kind of moment of going, is their relationship done for? Is it completely over? Kira's doubting himself in terms of like, is there now still a relationship between them, or is she now with Orphe? That could have been quite interesting to explore more of. But for what we got, I think it was quite good. But I would still like more drama and tension dialed up to 11, especially if you have a character like Agnes who's very meddling and who's very forward in terms of what she wants and potentially prone to causing a lot of complications in relationships in stories like this. That would have been quite interesting to explore. Talking about the joint operation now in the middle of the film, this was quite crazy for me to watch in cinema. I couldn't have imagined how far we would be going in terms of where this was going to go, but we lose both Rising Freedom and Immortal Justice, so we lost the Gundams. We're losing a lot of troops as well, like grunt suits and stuff like that. We lost 2 of the 3 Dom troopers, which I didn't think that would actually happen, so that told me everything in terms of, okay, we're going to go places in this one, because we've actually lost some characters here, and we lost the Archangel, and we almost lost the Captain. I have to confess that I felt that, if anything, there wasn't enough weight in the middle act in terms of the loss that could be felt from having essentially the Foundation backstab them and betray them in this way and ultimately try to kill them in that sense. It would have been interesting if maybe we saw Hilda, the last remaining Dom trooper, essentially break down in tears over the loss of her 2 most trusted comrades, and maybe even have a moment where, let's just say, for example, the Captain, who we almost lost, instead of showing her escaping through some sort of emergency seat thing that lowers her seat further down into the deck to avoid enemy fire, what if we didn't see that at all and we just saw the rifle fire? Oh no, we lost the Captain. And it's not confirmed if we had lost the Captain or not until several minutes later when she's confirmed to be alive and saved by Mu. What if we had a moment like that as well? I really wanted some emotional weight and tension here, and I don't think we got that in that sense. It was still pretty crazy, like really crazy in terms of how basically this film is going to go places. When you have a film, you're going to go all out on it because you've only got so much runtime, so you can't just drag things out over a long period of time. You've got to just get straight to the point, and that's basically, well, what happened here. And then at the possible last moment after Rising Freedom gets basically brutally totaled by some needle attack, which is, oh gosh, we could have almost lost Kira Yamato in that one. Athrun Zala comes in to save the day, the absolute GOAT. We will be talking more about him later on, but everything about Athrun Zala in everything he does in this film, just amazing. Just amazing. He is the absolute GOAT, as all the memes are saying. Honestly, just it's so good seeing him on screen. In fact, I would say he's an honorable mention as my favorite character in this. Not my favorite character in the film, but an honorable mention because of just what he does. Fantastic. And what's even more fantastic is when he essentially does the Athrun punch. He basically punches Kira and knocks some sense into his childhood friend. I really like this moment in the film where Kira basically completely breaks down his doubts and fears and insecurities about his ability to basically uphold his ideals, to peacekeep the world, to protect the world, and feeling powerless and incapable of doing so, questioning his relationship with Lacus. Is this why Lacus left him? Because he couldn't do it in the end and actually protect this world from war and devastation and everything that he's essentially trying to do as a part of Compass. You haven't seen Kira break down like this emotionally for a very long time. So to see him like this, it's quite something. I must confess, I would have liked maybe more scenes of the other characters in the room reacting to him breaking down. So for example, Shinn Asuka, I don't think has ever seen Kira Yamato fully break down like that before. What if he actually sees it and he doesn't have to say anything, but just show a look of shock on him just to see this leader, this man that he highly respects, fully breaking down emotionally in front of him and basically just showing some sense of, okay, everyone else in the room recognizes he's really starting to lose it at this point. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen that. But anyway, yeah, the Athrun punch, excellent. More to talk about Athrun another time, but yes, the Athrun punch, excellent. Everyone loved it. So moving on, I'm going to move on to the final battle. Before we talk about anything else when it comes to, say, mobile suits, let's talk about battleships. And I must confess that, you know, I might have another second honorary mention of a favorite character in this film, and that is Captain Mayu Ramius. I didn't think I would enjoy the captain so much because I'm not really a captain fan in that sense. I understand the appeal, but I'm just like, whatever. I'm here for the giant robots. That's all I'm here for, right? And I have to say, she is spectacular in this film. I have never seen battleships look so exciting in a Gundam show or thing before. I kept going to myself, are we watching Gundam or are we watching like Legend of the Galactic Heroes? Like, what is this? It's crazy. Honestly, when did battleships get so exciting? And that's the thing. Battleships are just cannon fodder. They're just things you go and blow up and no one cares about it unless it's like the main ship. But essentially, even then, you just watch it get blown up or you go and protect it from being blown up. There's nothing spectacular or amazing about battleships, but they made all the battleship scenes so entertaining and just really just wow. They made all the battleship scenes so entertaining that, to be honest, I would have just been happy watching more of that than anything else because of how well they did it. But, you know, we have to move on and eventually talk about the things that I really liked about it when it comes to, yeah, my absolute favorite moments of this final battle. But a definite highlight and a special mention goes to those battleships because I've never seen them look so good. So battleship moments, yes. And the captain, oh, I am a captain fan now after this, definitely. And just on the last note as well, the Millennium design is really cool, how it raises her position in the bridge above the actual command deck, so she's looking out through this glass dome into the battlefield. I thought that was really cool, and in some ways, it actually makes her feel like she's actually a pilot in the battlefield. That's really cool to me. Captain Ramius, definitely a fan now after this, plus the Millennium. Now I'm a fan. Now, finally, we get to talk about some of the most exciting things about this film, which really made me giddy, really giddy and happy beyond belief. And I was watching Destiny and Impulse attacking the fleet. I could have honestly watched this moment over and over again. This was the moment where I went, this is such an awesome film. This is such an awesome film. I love it. There's the nostalgic aspect of Gundam SEED and SEED Destiny for us fans when we watch it in cinemas. And when it comes to essentially seeing Destiny and Impulse on screen, you just go to yourself, yes, we're here, we're back, and they're back in glorious form. It was so great. I can't express that enough. And we're going to talk more about Destiny a bit later on. But before that, let's talk about some fun surprises. Duel and Buster appearing with the METEOR units. Never thought that would ever happen. I didn't watch TM Revolution's Freedom video where it actually spoils parts of the film, including that. I didn't know they were going to appear in the film, and I didn't know they would appear with METEOR units, but yep, okay, sure. I'll just nod my head and go, yes, that is cool. I don't know how they came up with this, but okay, I will go with this. Yes. Strike Freedom being piloted by Athrun Zala, that is also another moment I never foresaw or could have imagined, but I like that too. Infinite Justice reveal from inside the amazing Yzak. Throughout the entire film, I was basically going, where's Justice? Where's Justice? Why is he launching back into battle into Yzak? Where's the Justice? Where's the Justice? And then we see it and okay, now everything makes sense. That's how he's able to essentially pilot the Yzak so well. He's basically piloting Infinite Justice with some really thick, heavy body armor. A cosplaying Infinite Justice, cosplaying as Yzak. Mighty Strike Freedom. In the 2 weeks leading up to my trip to Japan, I did actually see the promotional material for the new classic model kits of Mighty Strike Freedom, the Gunpla kits. And I just remember thinking, this is so lame. Mighty Strike Freedom. Oh, great. It's just a Strike Freedom with a new fancy backpack, which I don't think looks very good from the promotional material I was seeing. And you've given him a katana because why not? I did not have much high hopes for the Mighty Strike Freedom. I thought that is such a lame name. But once you're in cinema and you see the Mighty Strike Freedom do its thing, Mighty Strike Freedom, yes, this is amazing. I don't know who came up with this. I don't even care about it anymore. This is amazing. I didn't think I'd ever see it. I didn't think that they would completely take the whole quote-unquote Jesus Yamato memes to 11 and beyond with this one. Mighty Strike Freedom. Oh, wow. What an absolute unit. Another fun surprise with Athrun again, this time with Cagalli remote controlling and a surprise beam head thing attack. This is basically Athrun from now on, just full of surprises in terms of how he takes down his opponents and what he does. A couple more things as well before we move on to the ending of this film. We have Shinn and Mu Laflag having a moment where basically Mu just goes, "Kid," and Shinn goes, "Old man. Don't call me old man." I like that. I thought that was pretty funny. And Shinn destroying the Requiem. Now, we got more to talk about Shinn later on, but destroying the Requiem, I thought that was quite symbolic in some ways of perhaps the ending Shinn Asuka probably should have had in SEED Destiny. Maybe that's why they wrote it so that he would be the one to destroy the Requiem, to have the ending he never got in SEED Destiny. Talking about the actual ending of this film, there's two things to mention. One is Athrun and Cagalli are actually confirmed. There's been many speculations and arguments made over the years. I think even official interviews questioned this a little bit as well and saying, well, they're not really a thing, or they weren't really together. Now they're actually confirmed to be a thing with the ring. And then finally, you have the beach scene with Kira and Lacus. I'm guessing this is probably director Fukuda's way of symbolizing mature, intimate, I love you, I share kind of love. Either that, or he's trying to recreate one of his OP scenes where the two of them are naked and looking at each other. He's trying to recreate that into the actual canon of his actual story itself. Either way, there's something to be said about Kira and Lacus, which is they're not the same couple that they started as in the beginning of this film. They are now a different couple, a stronger couple, stronger than ever before and stronger together. I think to myself that Athrun and Cagalli are strong because they have each other's backs. And I think that's why in some ways I sense Athrun is a much stronger character than Kira is in this film, because he's completed his character arc and he's completed his, I guess, his relationship arc with Cagalli. So effectively, he can go all out and fight and be as strong as he is because he knows someone has his back, quite literally with the remote control thing. And in the case of Kira and Lacus, there's no doubts about their relationship anymore, which has always been in some ways a question mark in their heads. They've never really clearly articulated their feelings to each other, and in this film they actually full on did that with the full on I love Lacus with all my being. And I remember a moment when I was watching this for the second time in British cinemas. There was a young couple sat a few rows in front of me, and I could see that the girl was actually crying when Kira was rescuing Lacus and saying I love you with all my heart. And come on, it's not that emotional, is it? But when I think about it, it kind of is, because again, they've never had a moment like that before. Not in SEED or SEED Destiny. They've never really confirmed their love in that way for each other, especially when it comes to, I guess, Japanese fiction and social conventions, where saying something like Aishiteru really has a lot more weight than, say, how perhaps maybe the West might use the word love in that sense. This was quite a big moment for them. So yeah, they basically finished their character arcs. So we've talked about the film in terms of the things I wanted to talk about as we went through the plot. Let me talk about things which I'd personally like to see more of. I would have liked more battle scenes and longer battle scenes, as I mentioned earlier. I would have also liked maybe some scenes or something to explain things like, say, the experimental railguns they were using against the Foundation, or maybe how Shinn does this duplicate thing. Maybe not even full-on explain the science, but just have a slight hint that this is a thing, basically. So it's not just a case of we watch it and we realize, oh, wait, hang on. They're using these rifles we've never seen before. Where did Strike Freedom get this extra black rifle from? I would have also liked some more character moments and interactions between different characters. More Shinn, more Athrun, more Cagalli, Captain, Mu, Hawke Sisters, Yzak, Dearka, Shino even, who appeared in it as well. Obviously, we're limited by runtime, and I guess that's why there was only so much they could do, especially considering the size of this cast, but it would have been nice, if we could have seen maybe a few more moments, but that's just what I wanted to see anyway. And finally, when it comes to things I want to see, again, I really wish there was just more romantic drama and tension dialed up to 11. I think there was more potential to explore with that, with, say, the relationship between Orphe and Ingrid being as one-sided as it is. Like, maybe Ingrid could have a confession moment to Orphe and say to him, what does Lacus have that I don't? And Orphe just straight out rejecting her and saying we'll never be together, and seeing how that emotionally affects her. We could have maybe seen a bit more uncertainty and tension between Kira and Lacus in terms of really questioning, do they actually love each other? Do they actually make each other happy? Maybe see something between Shinn and Luna as well, because I guess we were kind of reminded that they're in a relationship in this film. Not so much, it wasn't focused on, but we could have maybe seen a bit more of that too. A lot of potential with Agnes we could have had, where she could have really thrown a lot of complications. Maybe see where that relationship with Shura could have ended up going. Just more romantic drama, tension, and scenes dialed up to 11 that really bring home the character melodrama. If we're going to have these character moments and scenes where they're not in battles, somewhat drag the film a little bit, which, thinking back to my non-spoiler review where I said, it's a fairly fast-paced film. On second viewing, I realized it's not really that fast-paced. It is, I guess, into how much they're trying to cover, but it does drag a little here and there with some of the non-battle scenes. What could have maybe made those non-battle scenes more engaging and entertaining is if, again, they dialed up that drama to 11, so everything was a really high-intense character moment. That would have been quite interesting. Okay, now to talk about characters. The Foundation. I didn't care for them at all. There was nothing interesting to me about any of them. Only Orphe and Ingrid really held my interest because of the one-sided relationship that they have. But if anything, I do want to talk about one thing, and it's not the psychic powers things, although we will talk about that in a moment, but it's the blatant antagonism of the Foundation that was really the kind of problem for me watching this film. If I was to really think about things I could nitpick at and just go, I don't like this particular aspect about them. I get it if, say, this is an organization that's intending to rule the world and to eliminate Compass, so they don't necessarily have to be nice. But even then, there's a part of me that goes, yes, but should you be this blatantly, openly antagonistic towards the Compass guys? Sure, you guys are Accords and you view yourself as superior to everyone else, but do you have to display it in that sort of fashion? What if they're all, say, really buddy-buddy and super friendly and nice on the outside, but inside they're really actually very scheming and cunning and looking to betray everyone and shock everyone with their true personalities? But aside from that, my only other issue with the Foundation is just the psychic stuff. I didn't think it was necessary for this story. There were probably ways you could have written the story so that you could have maybe in the middle act where they're doing a joint operation, they could have written the story in a way where they set up Kira to actually violate some sort of agreement or to commit a war crime, and Kira thus becomes the target and they have an excuse to take him out as a result. That would have been more interesting for me personally to see. Moving on, I want to talk about Yzak, Dearka, and Shino. I didn't think Shino would appear in this, let alone Yzak and Dearka, but just to see Shino there, I was going, oh, cool, the girl from Astray. That's really cool. But really, with this section, I want to talk about Yzak and Dearka. And to really explain what I feel about them, aside from, say, wanting to see them do more in the Duel and Buster and in the final battle, aside from that, they, in my opinion, are basically the Colonel Todaka of this particular film. Colonel Todaka is the Orb Commander from SEED Destiny. There was a reference to him in this film when they said, I learned to miss my shots from Colonel Todaka. I thought that was really good. Todaka is, in my opinion, one of the characters that really embodies what it means to be a soldier in a war story. Taking part in a battle and following orders even if you don't agree with them, and doing what you believe to be right for your country or your nation. I feel like Yzak and Dearka are basically the Todaka of SEED Freedom because of a line that they said when they were taking out the rogue military commander fighting alongside the Foundation. We didn't forget. We haven't forgotten. That's why we need to stop doing things like this. I thought that was a really brilliant moment. Before we move on to the main characters, let me talk about Mayrin Hawke and Lunamaria Hawke for a moment. Mayrin, it's quite funny. She looks very motherly in this with her hairstyle, but otherwise she's a very confident lady in this. She never hit me as, say, super confident in the original, but she grew to be very confident throughout SEED Destiny. And I feel, if anything, we see that confidence now, having worked with Athrun behind the scenes for presumably a couple years now. But what's even more impressive to me is Lunamaria Hawke. Luna, I didn't rate her as a pilot. I didn't think she was very good. I felt that, if anything, she was not worthy of the the Zaft red uniform that she was wearing. And I didn't think she was worthy of being a Gundam pilot either. I felt, if anything, she was just handed a Gundam because, well, if Shinn's going to upgrade to Destiny, she might as well have Impulse. And I didn't feel she really was that great of a pilot. But there's something about the way she's portrayed in this film and her actions in this film that really give me that sense of, no, she's a pro pilot. She's a veteran pilot. She knows what she's doing and she's earned her stripes. Whereas I didn't think much of her in SEED Destiny, I think a lot of her now, she's good. That's our girl. She's great in this. And one last mention, Captain Ramius. I mentioned it before, the battle scenes, just amazing. Just amazing. I'm fully sold. I want to see more battleship scenes. Yeah, the captain. Definitely a fan. Kira and Lacus, I mentioned it earlier. They are definitely not the same couple anymore. They're stronger than ever before and stronger together. Kira Yamato himself has actually come a long way. He's not a crybaby anymore. He's become, in some ways, a fully matured adult through the course of this story. Lacus being an Accord, or retcon to be an Accord, is really interesting to me. Rie Tanaka, Lacus Klein's voice actress, has often said in interviews that the most difficult character she has ever had to voice is Lacus Klein. Her reason being that Lacus has almost no emotion to her in the way that she acts. Sure, she has emotional moments, but she's so, most of the time, borderline emotionless that it's almost like she's some, should we say, more humanized AI in terms of how she speaks. And that's why she's very difficult for Rie Tanaka to voice. Knowing that Lacus is now an Accord, this is kind of interesting. Lacus has always been somewhat not human in the context of Cosmic Era. She always seems to be someone different compared to everyone else. And if anything, this could be a way to maybe explain it. She's an Accord, so she is different from everyone else because of who she is on the genetic level. The reason she comes off as a humanized, perfect AI girl in real life, in perfect Accord genetic form with pink hair and whatnot, is because she is a superior breed of humanity itself. And you now have Ultimate Coordinator with a different type of Ultimate Coordinator. You now have Ultimate Coordinator and Ultimate Coordinator together. That's a pretty cool power couple. Speaking of power couples, Athrun and Cagalli, the scene at the end of the ring, enough said. And now we get to the part where I get to talk about Shinn Asuka, my favorite character in this film. Words cannot describe how shocked I was to find that Shinn Asuka was my favorite character in this film, as well as how happy and just cathartically euphoric it is to see Shinn Asuka be the way that he is in this film. I've seen it time and time again in the comment sections of people uploading clips of this film featuring Destiny Gundam and Shinn Asuka. Everyone's saying the same thing. There's so much love and adoration for him. So I'm sat there in cinema and I'm watching Destiny Gundam on screen. I'm loving every moment of it. I didn't know how much I would enjoy seeing Destiny on screen. It's so nostalgic, but also really euphoric, as I mentioned. And to see Shinn fight against the Black Knights, with METEOR playing in the background and taking them all out with the classic, legendary, reused animation scenes, we got to see something we didn't get to see 20 years ago. We got to see Shinn Asuka be a hero. A hero that no one probably knew they wanted until they actually saw it. And to see that moment where Shinn Asuka is just being that hero with METEOR playing in the background, taking out the Black Knights, that was just beautiful. This Shinn that we have in this film, he is the most likable Shinn we have ever come across in our lives. He is so unbelievably likable. You just can't help but like him. And you just want to see him win. You just want to see him rise to the challenge and overcome the odds and take down the Foundation. You just wanted to see that. Or I wanted to see that. Not only do I like this Shinn Asuka that we see, but he's, in my opinion, the Shinn Asuka we should have gotten SEED Destiny, or at the very least, towards the end of SEED Destiny, when he finally completes his character arc. Shinn never got the story that he should have had. He never got the character arc developments and the ending that he should have had in Destiny. Perhaps SEED Freedom is really not so much a film about Kira and Lacus, but rather a film about Kira, Lacus, and Shinn Asuka, with Shinn Asuka in particular getting to be the hero that we never got to see 20 years ago. To be that hero that all of us wanted to see and to finally become that hero today. To be honest, I didn't think I'd be saying any of this when I went to go see the film. I wouldn't say a hardcore Kira fan, but I was very much a fan of, Kira, Freedom, and the gang back in the day. Over the years, I grew to become more appreciative of Shinn, but I was still kind of like, yeah, whatever, cool, it'll be great to see Shinn. I didn't realize I'd walk out the door going, I want to see more of Shinn Asuka. Maybe in the future, we might get something like, say, I don't know, a retcon of Gundam SEED Destiny, like a reimagining of what the last half could have been like. Or maybe, I guess, in the context of this film now being canon in Cosmic Era, maybe we could say that SEED Destiny was never really the conclusion of Shinn Asuka's story. If there's ever going to be any sequels to Gundam SEED in any part of the timeline, I'd love to see more stories focused on Shinn Asuka. Anyway, it's been a long one. I appreciate you getting through all of this. Again, I would like to give a special thanks to Anime Limited, the UK anime distributor that worked out a deal to allow this film to be shown in the UK. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you very much. You allowed me to see this film 3 more times, and I was very happy about it. And yeah, we're going to leave it here. So let me know in the comments, guys. What did you think of this film? I'm really curious. I'll see you guys later. Bye.